Hello and welcome to episode 81 of The Imperial Truth. I'm Greg. Joining me as always is Neil.
Hello, Greg.
Hello, Neil. This is probably going to be a little bit shorter of an episode. This was the episode that made me consider stopping podcasting. We've had some issues. I've now moved into my girlfriend's flat whilst we wait to purchase a house.
Fiance,
yes. Posh girlfriend, isn't it? So we're waiting to purchase a house. So getting everything moved in here, putting stuff in storage. She's been amazing. Literally she's just run away to the bedroom to do some work so I can record, which is amazingly nice of her as usual. But yeah, just setup of podcast when you don't have a background in it. And you're just, everything you've done so far has been by trial and error and bodging. Oh, it's hell. It's horrible. But there we go. Things we do for our hobbies, eh?
Indeed.
Yeah, I was getting very angry at Neil just before recording this. A little bit behind the screen there. Not through any fault of Neil's.
For saying hello too many times, I thought when I said hello at the start of the podcast, you might snap.
Normally there's these big gaps, but no. Hearing you say hello too many times might just send me on a falling down style rampage. But it's all good. Anyway, so before we go into the show, Element Games for all your hobby crack. So when you get your Christmas monies, head on over to Element Games and get the latest GW stuff at up to 20% off, and paints and paint handles
and brushes and everything else you could possibly need.
Glue. Other games, they do other games, board games and Magic the Gathering and deck holders and stuff for your Shadespire cards. Yeah, they're all really, really cool. Really cool. Speaking of paint handles, we're going to talk about you and your painting exploits in the main topic. But I actually finally got around to using the painting handle. And you know what? They're freaking amazing. And I'm sure everyone who's used paint pots with, a bit of blue tack and whatever is going to say, I've been doing that for years. But these are solid. These are big, chunky things, and they look good. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're not going to put them on the mantelpiece to see, but they don't look like shoddy, do they?
I used one for the first time. I thought they were very good. Obviously, they have slight limitations for how I paint and things. I had a discussion with Max from the Heavy Metal team about them, and we both agreed that obviously they're a very good sort of hobby device. However, for the style of painting we do, we often need different or better access to areas, and something on a base is not going to work very well if it's just clamped that way, if you know what I mean. So
and you're going to be painting multiple parts and everything like that. But I've been painting my Shadespire models. I started using one, and then I went straight down to the local GW and bought a second one because they didn't have another one in stock. So I will be buying at least. I'll probably end up with 5, I think, because then I can batch paint in 5s. The fact that the size of it means you're not cramping on your hand, and I build my models and then paint them. Like, there's very few models. I might do the odd bit, but still the main model will be on a base, because I normally super glue it to a base, then knock it off that base, put it on the finalised base. And for that, I found them to be really useful.
The funny conversation I had with Max was he mentioned that obviously the hobby products team came round to Heavy Metal team and said, "Oh, look, guys, look, we've designed this new, painting handle. We'd like to get your thoughts on it." So they turned around and said, "Yeah, great. Can we have 10 each, please?" Yeah. And they're like, well, "No, we can give you 1 each." They went, "No. We do lots of paintings, so we need 10 each." And they went, "Have this one." And let us know what you think. So, it's funny how I think the multiple purchases of paint handles seems to be quite a thing.
Well, yeah, because again, they're a good device for a certain style of painting, and that style of painting is more the army style of painting, and so you're going to be batch painting. As you say, when you get to a higher levels, you want to be breaking models down. You don't want everything stuck to a base. You want that access. You want one arm, to paint at a time. So
yes,
but it's a tool to be used in a certain, all tools need to be used in a manner that works, So, yeah, no, a big thumbs up. I was like, yeah, I need to go and buy more.
And that's good though, isn't it? If you found something that works for you, if anything makes painting easier or better, it's worth investing in it.
Because my first thought was brilliant. I'm not going to rub my fingers on them. I'm not going to rub the paint off quite as much and all that jazz. But actually, I've found it easier to paint the model as well. Because, I say, okay, I do need to get the model upside down. Okay, I'll just turn this upside down and paint in there. And I'm not worried, and it's comfortable, more comfortable than trying to hold the model as it is, I know, yeah, there are limitations to it, but for the average painter, I think it's actually really cool. So
I think they're a really good idea. Something they should have done, like with all these things, something they should have done years ago. And I did like how simple it was to attach the models a bit, because obviously you see it and you think, oh, okay, and I thought it was going to have some sort of clamp or screw or catch, but it's literally pull it apart, stick the model in, and let the jaws sort of squeeze it together.
Yeah, be interested to see on the durability of that. Obviously, these are new. I'm sure it feels fairly decent, but over time, in the end, that will break. But I wonder how long that'll be. If it's years down the line, that's fine. And then obviously they only get up to 40 mil, 50 mil. Got 40 mil.
Oh, I suppose, yeah, there is. Yeah, I know what you mean, like a space size, yes. There's obviously a limitation there on how big they'll go.
Obviously, but then anything too big, you're not going to hold like that anyway, so. But yeah,
that's true.
It's cool. It's got its limitations, but it is cool. So yes, I have been painting some shades by, got the nights out, because again, loads of stuff's in storage. But at work today, was thinking about the LVO and what I'm going to take there, and what I really want is an army that's easy to carry. So I'm thinking about an Ordo Reduxer Mechanicum list, but it's all going to be Thalax, Ursarax, those infantry type units. No tanks, which is interesting and limiting. But having something like that, maybe the biggest thing I'd bring being the Abeyant for a character, and maybe a Knight Errant along with them.
Yeah, it must be the easiest way to carry stuff is infantry, isn't it? Really,
yeah.
Because there's so many good cases for infantry, and you can pack it right in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the vehicles in Heresy that make it tricky.
Like the odd vehicles, fine. Like the Krios Venators are quite small, so I could potentially put one of them in around this stuff, because Mechanicum stuff can be, so you're not packing hordes of it. It's the things it's the robots, because the legs aren't huge compared to the body, and all of a sudden you're putting stresses on them in two places, and they tend to little bits will break or they'll come off the base. And I just don't want to have to go through that again. That happened. My stuff, I carried it on hand luggage, survived to Chicago pretty well, but still having to do bits and pieces. I just don't want to go through it all. I'm playing in the narrative. I can bring an army that's not amazing. That's fine. I'll crack on, make do with it, and just have fun. So, and then maybe take the Shadespire as well for the Friday, but because that's nice and easy. So yeah, we'll have to see on that one. So yeah, that's mainly what I've been up to. What have you been up to?
Well, apart from attending painting events, which obviously we'll cover shortly, I've been just painting away on Eidolon. So a lot of people probably would have seen on my Instagram putting up a few pictures, and been working away quite steadily on him, getting purple's an interesting colour to paint, because talking it through with some of the heavy metal guys and bits and pieces, it was interesting because purple is often, as they refer to, as like a recessive colour. You use purple to shade lots of different colours, and then trying to then use that as your main colour makes it difficult to shade, but it also makes it difficult to highlight, because the purple range that you've got pretty much is going up in white stages. You go up to the edge highlight, which is the lilac that they make. It's effectively just adding more and more white into the mix, and of course that means then it can then look very washed out once you start really trying to apply those highlights. So it's a tricky one to get it to look right. So I've been playing around with that. I had some good discussions, and I've been playing around with adding some blues into it to try and hopefully make it look a little bit different. So, but yeah, it's I've been working away on him, getting him done, and I also have teed up the next project for Golden Demon, which is going to be some Vorax.
Oh, right.
So I purchased those at the weekend, and am now raring to go to get those sort of obviously cleaned up, built, and get those all painted for the squad entry. So,
like most Mechanicum models of that size, make sure you get that hip joint in correctly, because it's very easy to have them leaning backwards.
The thing for me, what I was going to try and do is work very much from the ground up. So get the base made and design, get those legs positioned properly, and get that top upper torso sorted before then anything else gets glued in. And just try and I'm sure they're going to be tricky to put together, but I've also got to try and keep them separate for painting purposes, and also try and keep all the. It's got a lot of cables and a lot of belt feeds and bits and pieces.
But you don't put the cables in the back, do you?
I'm not a big cables man. No, I often leave cables off, but I think I'm going to have to put the belt feeds on because I think they are quite integral to how the model looks. But that's going to be fun as well, because they all need bending and heating and stuff. So
the belt feeds were
fun times with those.
They weren't too bad on them as far as I remember. But it's it's those big. It's the payoff for getting that posability is needing 3 hands to build them, and trying to make sure you get that pose exactly right, which other people have done very well. It's the same thing with the Contemptor. And that it's as a very basic hobbyist, I'm not that bothered. I normally end up with him looking at one leg or one arm looks ever so slightly wrong, but this happens. It's all good. All good. All right. So should we move on to what's been happening in the Heresy for the last few weeks?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what's been happening? Not a lot. No. So that we're still waiting on the book. Have you seen the collector's editions for Christmas? So the 2 Legion Astartes Army lists books, 55 quid for the 2.
Right, yes. I don't think I caught that. Was that out on Friday? Was that dropped in?
Yeah, all the army lists for 100 quid. And then, is it all 7 books for 375? All big black books?
Cool.
It's a lot of money, but it's not too terrible a price. What's that, 55 quid each, roughly?
I suppose it's one of those things. If you do want to get into it, it's going to save a few quid.
Yeah, I mean,
good way of getting them all.
Yeah, these are a lot of people are selling these on Facebook at the moment because for various reasons. They're not. Even the later ones aren't necessarily fully up to date. So it is what it is, but it's got all that background in it, and that's what you're buying these books for. Like Book 7, for all of its faults in, some rules not being clear and some typos and what have you, the background is very, very good. It's fantastic. And that's what you should be buying those books for. If you're buying those books for any other reason, or the campaigns as well, to be fair. But if you're buying those books just for rules, then that's kind of doing it wrong.
Yes, I completely agree with that. I think the colour plates that are in there. There's great stuff in those books.
A wealth of resources in those books. But for direct playing, unless it's the only place to get your army list, then it's not necessarily the greatest. And that was about it. I mean, they did have the Red Scorpions command. So there's Kassan Sabius and Sirai Karagon. This is one of their 40k character pieces, but they're in some ornate but old school armour. And I've seen some people talking about utilising these for characters in the Heresy, which I think is quite a cool idea, actually. Mm-hmm. A smidgen of playing around with it is all you need.
Well, I remember the good old days when the only way you could get your hands on Mark IV was by buying the Red Scorpion set, and then by scrubbing bits and pieces off. So yeah, I don't think that'd be too difficult, to be honest.
No, absolutely, and they're a nice little pair actually. I do like that a lot. That little set. Good poses on those as well. Yeah, very very cool. In fact, actually, the Red Scorpions have got some. I might have to look through some of their stuff actually for bits and pieces. There's some cool gear on there. So that's another thing to add onto the pile of things to look at and buy. Why not, eh?
The never-ending pile.
Yeah, the never-ending pile. You're absolutely right. And that was about it. I say it's been very quiet. We've had Black Library, we've had Old Earth, which we're probably going to talk about with Michael soon.
Was that available at the Weekender?
Yes. In fact, yeah. When's it out? I don't actually know when's it out. I think it might be out already. Actually, I can't think for the life of me. But yeah, picked it up at the Weekender, the Black Library Weekender, and gave it a good read. It's Nick Heim, therefore a lot of people won't particularly like it just on that fact. I think it's better than. I think a lot of people aren't giving it the chance to be good. It is out yet. And it covers the end of Vulcan's story in the mainline Heresy. And there's a couple of other things tied up in there as well, which I won't go into now. But I quite enjoyed it. And I say we'll get Michael on at some point to talk about that. Maybe not this episode due to time issues. But it's all good, but we are right in the middle.
Has the audios and all of that been released for it at the same time, or is it just
you can
just
buy
a book?
an ebook, MP3, and hardback right now.
That's it. It's very organised, isn't it, of them? I do like the fact that you can get it on any format straight away. Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of the minimum they should be doing now, but that's fine. It is good that it is an option for whatever people think of options. It is actually an option, which is cool. So, and it would take a little while to get up on Audible, but we've got shed loads of them on Audible now. So if you do want to experience the Heresy slightly cheaper than doing it the Black Library way, then $7.99 a month in the UK, I think it is for Audible. You get one free book, and that book can be. Now they've got The Master of Mankind. It's up there. You can get the. You can actually buy stuff through Audible as well. So, like the audio book of Lone Wolf and Wolf at the Door. Lone Wolf's there is a very short audio. It's a 10-minute audio. That's there for £2.62. So you don't want to waste your £7-8 credit on it, but you can buy it that way. Definitely well worth looking at Audible if you want to take in your Heresy content there. Too much to look at. Come off that page. But we are right in the middle of the Black Library Advent as well, and I'm not going to go into those stories. Again, maybe we'll get Michael on and do a little review of some of the stories. John French's latest piece in that. Can't remember what it's called now, but it's receiving a lot of very good reviews, as are a couple of others. I've got to catch up with them. I've been too busy doing other bits and pieces, but that's about it for Heresy. There are, a few short stories, a couple of books. We're just kind of waiting for the rule book and the Wolves to start hitting, and it looks like the Wolves will be starting next year. I would hope. But yeah, I mean, who knows? We've got the Weekender coming up. So did you manage to get tickets, didn't you?
Well, yes, I believe I was one of the first to get tickets. I was literally sat on the sofa. I think it was about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I think it was.
Something like that,
and my phone buzzed, and it was in my hand. I looked down. Oh, Weekender tickets, and literally jumped on there. Bang Mighty then quickly sent you a message to say tickets are up, and I think you got on there straight away and got some as well. And then I just put a shout out to everyone that I knew just to say, tickets have gone on sale, and then people have grabbed those. And it was through Eventbrite, which I thought was which was a different way of doing it than in previous years.
Warhammer World Events have been doing that. Sorry for smacking the microphone there. It's poor etiquette from me. Warhammer World have been using Eventbrite for a while, which is really handy when you forget your ticket, because it's on Eventbrite and you can search for it on your emails and stuff. So that's handy. So it's the Horus Heresy and Necromunda Weekender, which has caused huge amounts of consternation across the internet. How dare the Necromunda impinge on the Heresy Weekender and all that kind of jazz. I kind of understand why, but I think realistically, looking at the year we've had with Heresy and the year ahead we've got, it was probably a sensible option.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, apparently Tony Cottrell was the one that pushed it.
Yep, Tony Cottrell wanted it. I would think the initial thought was, right, okay, so Heresy, we tend to have one big release, don't we? Or near one big release. So usually there's a black book there or around the corner. Hasn't always been one there, but that's been the major talking point for a number of seminars and everything else. Along with the black book usually comes new models and things like that. So we've had also that fed into seminars and to showing off stuff as well. We've also had knock on from previous books or what have you, or rules coming out. Essentially, we've had book 7 was February last year, or this year, should I say? New models wise, the Talons, we've had a couple of the Dreadnought, the Telemon, and the Flyer for the Talons, and not much else that's been really new. The Arcus, the Sicaran variants, and that's about it, isn't it? Mm. And then on top of that, we've had a Black Library Weekender, so we've had loads of chat about the Heresy. Now they can repeat a certain amount of that, but they don't want to repeat it all because information comes out of their weekenders and gets fed down to people. So when you take those three things into consideration, and then we've got no black book, we've had no big release recently. What are these seminars going to be full of? There has to be something specific to be talking about, and they might have stuff planned. I'm sure they have got stuff planned, but they've got 2 whole days to fill up in those seminars and to show off models. Mm. And, would they struggle to do it? Possibly. So they bring in Necromunda to make sure the Weekender kind of happens, in my opinion. Or happens
without Necromunda being in there, there could be questions asked of if the Weekend is required.
Yeah.
And I think we'd all hate that more if they turn around and said, yeah, there's going to be no Weekender this year because we haven't got a book to talk about or anything to release. I would,
Yeah.
That would greatly upset me.
Yeah, and also Alan was a big part of the Weekender. Alan was in a lot of the seminars, and not to say that everything relies on Alan, but he was a major player in all the events that went around it. So not having him there, maybe there's a bit of, who takes up that mantle? Can someone take up that mantle? Probably. But it's not easy to find people who can do that, who are so good at doing that. But, yeah, so bringing in Necromunda helps take some of the stress off that. Does it dilute the Heresy? Yeah, but it's its own thing now. It's not the Heresy Weekender. It's a different beast. Going forwards, I could see it going either way, to be honest. I could see it going back to the Heresy Weekender, but I could also see it staying as a Heresy / specialist games, 1 or 2 specialist games event. And I wouldn't necessarily have...
For me, it feels as though that obviously with the specialist games coming out, obviously Heresy has lost momentum because obviously there's not as many people working on it, there's not as much new stuff coming out, which means a weekend devoted just to one game system like Heresy is going to be really hard to do now, because without lots of new stuff being produced or coming out, what can you go into with detail? You're going to struggle, aren't you, with content for the weekend?
But by this time next year, the Heresy might be back up to going at full chat.
Yes, and if that is the case, happy days. I'd be more than happy that's the case.
I wouldn't be. I mean, I'm a major specialist games fan, so that helps. But I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be crying into my beer if the next weekend or after that is the same, and I can see Adeptus Titanicus, set in the Heresy, so why wouldn't that would be almost part of it by default anyway? If they set Battlefleet Gothic in the Heresy, that would be part of it by default. So Necromunda, fine. Blood Bowl, fine. Maybe one issue is it does mean... Well, you've always had it with the Heresy Weekender anyway. Black Library Weekender, it's love of books. Yeah, you might love 40k, you might love Age of Sigmar, you might love, a few of the other Heresy, whatever. But actually most people loved all the books to a greater or lesser extent. Heresy definitely have a little bit of a delineation between... there are some people there who are just gamers. Some people there who are just for the painting, or 90% there for the painting competition. And not many.
Some last year. There was some people just turned up for the Golden Demon.
Plenty of people are into it all, but some of the people aren't into the lore at all. They're into the models in the game. So we've already had in the Heresy a bit of not different groups, but different attitudes towards certain aspects of it. This is going to increase that potentially a little bit.
Yep.
I'm not too sure this year if it will. I think this year will still mainly be Heresy fans, and then some of them will always also like Necromunda. I think because of the fact... So it took an hour to sell out tickets this year. So pre-order tickets were limited to 2 per person, which is good.
I thought it was a good move. I thought that was a sensible move to stop the quantity of tickets just running out straight away.
There's still going to be a call that there should be no pre-order tickets for people, it creates clicks and all that. I mean, I'm lucky enough that I got in on the system, although, I had to argue a couple of times over the years.
Yes, I've argued my way in, yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard one. They are rewarding people who've been before. Do you want to give other people the chance? I can see both sides of the story. This year, that and the fact that it's Necromunda, some people haven't come because it's watered down in inverted commas, has allowed more people to come who maybe haven't been before. And some of them haven't also decided not to because of that as well. So we might get a bit of a different crowd this year. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And you never know, you might find... It'll be really interesting, actually, just to be in the crowd. I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine. I will have a good time. I'm almost certain of that. But it will just be interesting to see how that works. If the Necromunda is an afterthought for most people attending, or is as much a part of it. We can only wait and see.
The good thing, and I say this from a person who actually hasn't even played a game of Necromunda yet, or opened a box, or read anything about it. I've been too absorbed in other things that used to love Necromunda. So with Necromunda being there, I don't have any qualms with that at all. And I would imagine that most Heresy fans are probably the same ilk and say, do you know what, I like Necromunda. I don't mind if it's there. If it's a bit of extra stuff to talk about in some seminars, then I probably will sit down and listen to a few of them.
Yeah, absolutely right. And we can only wait and see what happens. Really, it will be interesting. Seeing a lot of discussion. It's people basically saying that the Heresy Weekender should just become a Heresy Open Day now because of the fact if it can't sell out a Weekender. Potentially, there's argument for that. As I say, I think this Weekender gives it potential to come back strong next year. I wouldn't mind a Heresy Open Day, but a Weekender is something very, very different.
Oh yeah, completely.
Yeah. And it would be a real shame to lose that aspect of it. The Black Library Weekender came back, and that's brilliant, and I can see that staying now. I would like the Horus Heresy Weekender. You couldn't really do it with too many other game systems now. I think Black Library and Horus Heresy will be the only two that you could really do it for, and keep it sensible, as it were.
I think you're right.
It definitely is it's a marquee event on the calendar. I'm not going to travel up for an open day every year for 40k, but I will go up to the Weekender because of the nature of what it is, because of having that intimate chance to chat to people, to have that just hanging around in the bar afterwards. The 40k open day, awesome. Chuck you out at 6 o'clock, and that's it. Doom, dead.
Yeah, drive home.
Awesome, yeah. Even if you're staying the night, cool. You go and have a meal, go to the pub, go back. It's a very different experience from, cool, it's 6 o'clock and everything's kind of shut down. Awesome, let's go to the bar. Let's have some food. Let's go to the bar. All right, awesome. Yeah, Mark's there. I needed to ask him about how he did his, Custodes Gold. Cool, awesome. I'll do that. Oh, and Neil's here. Oh, yeah, we're just chatting. Oh, yeah, I've just been chatting to one of the authors for an hour about American football, It creates a very different thing. It's like anything when you're in that environment where you're in one place and you're kind of locked out from the rest of the world. It takes on an atmosphere. And it is very, very cool. And if you are going, there are still people saying, they're not going to have much new stuff there, so what's the point in going? And they've been going to the Weekenders for the new stuff. And it's like, well, cool. I mean, you go for whatever reasons you want to go for, but that's an expensive, long way just to get something early. So
not for me. It was never about. I mean, I love it when they had obviously a new book available. Yeah, and for me that was always the pinnacle. Queuing up, getting that book, flicking through, and just those conversations that you'd have at a bar in the queue. Oh my God, have you seen this? Oh, can you look at Russ? See, we can. It was all those excited conversations of everyone seeing something for the first time and frantically flicking through a book, and they were always magical at times. But picking up a new model for me that maybe has only just been released, I was always of the mind of, well, not really bothered, it'll come out in a week or two and I'll get it then. I'm not going to be sitting down and gluing it and painting it now. I'm not that excited about getting a model a week early. It doesn't really. Yeah, but
there are some people who are. That's why some people pay stupid prices for stuff on eBay when it's coming out like 2 weeks later. Yeah, it does happen, and that's fair enough. But you've just got to accept the fact that you're going to pay a shed load of money to do that. But you don't get at the open day. You don't get the chance, the time to read through the book and have that conversation. So you don't get that interaction that you do at the Weekender. So I'm really glad. I got 2 tickets, which is really good because it's one of those things where if someone's not fully up on it, I was talking to a guy from America. He's a commission. He's done commission painting, but he runs a painting thing, studio, and do lessons. And he was like, "So when do these tickets go on sale?" And I was like, "Sold out 8 hours ago." But I had a ticket for him. So he's coming over. He wants to enter Golden Demon and just experience it. So I think he's flying in on the Friday and flying out on the Monday from I think he might be West Coast. But yeah, so it's a long way to go. But he wants to enter Golden Demon as well. So I grabbed a ticket for him because that's cool. That's what you do. I'm not so it's not like I'm going to make money on it or anything like that. This is a guy who wouldn't be able to get a ticket that way. So that should be interesting. And then, so this is the weekend after I get back from Vegas. So I land on the Tuesday, take the Friday off work, land on the Monday, back to work Tuesday, Friday off work to drive up to Nottingham. So I thought I'd better invite the missus. Otherwise, I might be. So the missus is coming to her first one. She's not got a ticket, but she'll be in the spa. So donations to the fiancé spa fund, gladly accepted.
Is there a Patreon for that?
Yeah, there will be. So birthday present for her will be some treatments and stuff, so she'll hang out and see all the geeky, nerdy people. So that'll be good fun. In one way or another. She'll probably just take the piss out of me all weekend, so that's fine. That's all good. We can cope with that. But yeah, looking forward to that, actually. Really looking forward to it. Be good to see all the old guys again. And are you going to enter anything into that?
Because obviously I'll be going for like a few Golden Demons anyway. But I find it's great just to meet up with everyone again, and on the course that we'll talk about a bit later on. I was chatting to the guy I was sitting next to, and he said, "Oh, look, friend me on Facebook." And I was like, "Well, I don't really use Facebook that much." But then I did say, "Look, are you going to the Weekender?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I'll see you there." Yeah. So it's so cool to be able to link up with people that are into the same love as you, and you sort of even if it's only if it's that one time a year, you bump into people, "Oh, how you doing?" And you have a talk, you have a chat with them, you can have a beer with them,
and it's so weird.
It's just such a great environment.
Yeah, it's so weird. We could organise these trips. We could organise something where we get to meet up, but as humans, busy lives, we don't. So it's when someone else puts it on for us that we're like, "Oh yeah, brilliant, we'll do that." But yeah, no, it's cool. Really looking forward to that. And I think that's all that's been going on, really. It's we're just awaiting that book, which did get confirmed at the 40k open day that it was the front cover was delaminating. I think we might have mentioned that last episode, but can't wait to get that and flick through it. And we know most of what's going on, but it will be just nice to have that solid starting point again.
Yeah, it feels as though then it's owned again. It feels as though it's its own beast, its own animal then.
Absolutely. Awesome. Right. We'll leave that there and we'll come back and we'll talk about your painting weekend. And we're back to talk about Neil's continued hobby painting tour around the country.
Yes, my UK adventure.
Absolutely.
I was going to say global adventure, but I thought no, that's not right.
Neil's I've been looking at LVO, and I'm like on the line between doing a couple of paint seminars on the Friday or playing some Shadespire. We'll have to see.
Talking about other paint seminars. London Heresy's got Cult of Paint turning up.
I think they've got Miles there as well.
Have Miles there as well? Have they?
I believe so.
Because I know they posted up that they're going to be running a 2-day course at the
2-day. I don't know what. I haven't looked fully into that actually, but yeah, because I'll be busy anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, but if I wasn't helping out, I was a little bit gutted because obviously I booked to go on one of their courses in January,
right.
And then I thought to myself, "Oh, do you know what? One in London would be so much easier."
Yes,
but they did put on there for all the people that keep complaining about not having one in London. Here you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So no doubt they're going to sell out on that one. I would have thought. So if you want tickets for that, I'd say get in early.
Yeah, absolutely, and just go to London Heresy and look up the rest of them as well. I thought Miles' name was mentioned. I could be wrong, but there are others there as well. And that's part of turning it into the convention that I'm really looking forward to, actually. As I say, hopefully 2019 we can have multiple days, so I can have a day to go and do stuff, and crack on. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be so good if we get a bit of downtime that we can go around and have a look at what's going on with all these other bits and pieces.
Yeah, okay.
There's loads of spare time when you're running a tournament.
I've had loads of offers from help as well. Jumping on your segment here, loads of offers from help. Most of whom have come from people who are playing, which is great. I might need some support from people who aren't playing. But I've got some friends to ask at the club and whoever. I think most of them are coming to play 40k and other stuff. So we'll see. It's all good fun. But anyway, we're talking about Neil's UK painting adventure. So where did you go this time, Neil?
Right, this week on Neil's Painting Adventure, I went to Warhammer World for a weekend of painting with a heavy metal team.
Yeah, I saw Nick putting up some... Was it Nick? No, not Nick. John Bracken was putting up some photos of setting up the venue, and there were a few people on Twitter that were at the event who were tweeting their photos. You didn't tweet any photos.
I Instagram loads of photos.
Yeah, rubbish. So there's plenty going on in that front. So, and you got to do it in the Aquila room or whatever it's called now. It's
the Sigmar room now. Yeah. So it was obviously quite nice to. So the shout came out. So we got an email through the Eventbrite website that it was being held in the main office building. So we were told to go to main reception where we'd sign in. And then we were, there were signs to go up the stairs and into the Sigmar meeting room. So I've been up there before on Winners' Days and bits and pieces, but obviously it's quite nice. It's obviously out of the way. You're not in the middle of Warhammer World. There's no through traffic. It's nice and quiet. So we went into the room, and on setup, they really have gone all out. So where this differentiates from other painting events that I've been to, this was very well organised. I mean, everyone had a daylight lamp, and they were the daylight company ones, the LEDs versions. So we all had a decent LED setup. We had brushes, paints, project box, painting handle, pallets, 2 pots of water for washing out. So they really have lavished some time and attention on the setup. They haven't sort of other events, and this is no dispersion on their events. Obviously, it's a case of bring your own. Bring your own lamp, bring your own paints. Whereas obviously being GW, they could go into the realms of providing it all for you. It was a just turn up and learn sort of event, which obviously is very handy if you don't want to have to bring all your stuff. And I mean, being paints and models and brushes isn't too much of an issue, but lamps and things can become a bit of a chore to lug around.
The lamps they used, were they the ones I bought, as it were? The what do you call them? I can't remember what they're called now. With the adjustable light, with the LED.
Yes, just the brightness, LED sort of on an arm.
Cool.
The pucker ones, the ones that Heavy Metal Team use, the ones that Miles uses. It's the go-to lamp for most pro painters.
Cool. Yeah, because they got them there. They can always use them then if they need to for actual staff. But,
they turned around and said it was an investment, obviously, because they've decided they want to run these events again, and obviously that was I think about £150 a piece, and there was like 16 of them, plus one in each other meeting room, plus one on the desk of the instructor.
Sure.
So it's quite a lot of lamps to shell out for.
Absolutely. Just like to say, Neil might be coming across just a touch broken up, but that's bad weather. So apologies for that. That's Skype and weather and things like that. It's just, hopefully it's completely audible to my ears, but there's a couple of little short, sharp bits. So I just wanted to put that in there. Okay, cool. So Warhammer World on a Saturday, nice and early. How many were there?
There was 16 spaces, 16. And again, I think we mentioned before that this sold out with they even said it sold out in under 3 minutes.
Cool.
So the first one weekend, which was this one that's just gone, I think it was under like 30 seconds. I clicked on. By the time I clicked through to buy one ticket, which I had set up, so it was literally like 3 or 4 clicks, and I was done. The first lot of tickets had gone. So that was, sold out in no time at all. The others then soon followed, and I think a lot of people maybe missed out or missed the boat. Some people I spoke to there said they'd just literally gone on to the website at that point. They weren't planning to go on bang on 8 o'clock, but one guy said he was just standing around and he thought, oh, do you know what? I'll see if I can get on that course. Opened his mobile phone, clicked on the website, and went, oh, I can get a ticket, and literally purchased one this then and there.
Wow.
Obviously a lot of people, wanted to go on this course, and I think from what they've said, they're going to run more of them. So there will be opportunities to go on these courses. Maybe they'll do another 3 next year. There might even be another one at the end of the year. So it's.
I think the space one as well.
There'll be.
There's 16 people. That means they can do this for a long time and still have a huge amount of interest in it, because the reach they've got for 16 spaces is pretty good. And so, what exactly was this course again? This was the basics.
So this was the Heavy Metal Foundations in Excellence.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
They've done the 2 other ones they've done are the textures and blending, and the last one is non-metallic metals. So obviously they're trying to cover some quite technical techniques, and really take you through them stage by stage. It's worth noting that this one, I felt as though obviously I knew quite a bit about what they were referring to, but it is amazing how much you can learn from the Heavy Metal team, just how on top of their game they are. And you think like the first thing we were doing was pretty much edge highlighting Primaris Space Marine.
Yep.
And we also got a little booklet that came with the weekends, and that was basically a load of pictures telling us about the about the heavy metal team, and also then a load of colour recipes.
Okay.
So telling us about all the recipes for all the different chapters, so Ultramarines, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Dark Angels, and then onto faces. And you could literally, they gave you enough paints to paint any of those. So it was a case of, they started painting an Ultramarine, and I thought very much, okay, this is going to be, 4 or 5 steps. We'll have this done. This is pretty easy. I do this all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And it was surprising the number of steps they put into a line highlight, which, for me, I was like, I thought it'd be less steps than this. And their accuracy and how controlled they are when they paint is quite something to behold when you think you know how it's done. If you know what I mean. Like, for me, I was like, oh yeah, I know. And I was doing it my way because they had a big screen up with a camera.
Yeah.
Obviously the camera, although it was a very expensive camera, which John told us about numerous times, it wasn't great at really giving us detail of the, seeing the model. We could see the model being painted, but you couldn't really get into the detail of seeing what they were doing. And then they'd stop and hand the model around, and that's when you really saw and went, oh wow, that's actually a lot finer and a lot more controlled than I thought it would be. And when they're applying shades or washes, they're not slapping it on, they are going in with a fine brush and putting it into the recesses where they want it. They're not, there's, as someone said, there's no messy stages. There's no just sort of slap it on, that'll do. Right. It was a case of everything they did was controlled and clean and a lot finer than I thought it would be. So I took a lot out of that, of sort of upping my game when it came to highlighting.
Okay, awesome. And this was, Space Marine's legs mainly, wasn't it? That I saw people painting.
Yes, yeah. It was pretty much, they started on a leg, and they even said, this weekend isn't about completing a model or, them giving you a model and you painting it in its entirety. It was about learning the techniques and learning the theory. And it was a case of, we didn't get a whole Space Marine, we got, the body of a Space Marine. Yep, so we all painted a bit of a leg, and then once we'd done that leg, it was a case of, right, okay, well that's lunch, we'll break for lunch and come back after that.
Oh, that's cool. So how did you feel after that first session?
Well, I took a lot from it, like I said, and I felt, we spent a few hours on it, and I didn't feel as I was pushing the boundaries too much. I felt as though I was quite comfortable in what I was doing. A lot of the people there, obviously, they're trying to do this for a very varied skill set, aren't they? So they're not going, hell for leather for, come on, let's do this, let's next stage. It was very slow, progressive. We could sort of sit there and chat and get everything done. So by the time lunch came round, I was quite happy to have a break and go off and enjoy Warhammer World.
You say a very varied, but this is the heavier metal. So you would expect people to not turn up having only painted 4 models in their life, No,
I don't think there was too much of that. There was definite different skill sets.
Yeah, absolutely. Always will be.
One of the things that was said to me, because obviously I turned up quite early on the Saturday because it was a 9 o'clock kickoff, which obviously I mentioned to you earlier that it's a bit bizarre turning up to Warhammer World when the gates are still bolted shut, and you're looking to try and just get in the car park.
Yeah.
But I turned up, and the first thing that Max said to me was, "What are you doing here?"
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing here? You got a Slayer Sword. You've taken away the opportunity from some little kid to come and come to this course. And I said, oh no, everyone can learn something new. And it was. I think most people there had obviously a really a love of painting. A lot of people there though just wanted to try and maybe improve their army and just improve their techniques. And I think it was very technique driven, and I think a lot of people, so much of it hinges on brush control. Yes. When you're given a colour recipe and those paints are put out in front of you, mixing the paints into the right consistency is the easy bit. The brush control is the thing that really sets it apart from a different style of painting. It's just so controlled.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I was watching Amy. I can't remember her surname now. She's on Twitter. Talking through hers, and she's an accomplished painter. I don't know that she's entered many competitions, and I'm sure she's a finalist level.
Golden Demon.
Yeah, I think she might have got the odd pin. Obviously, there's a difference in what she's painted at competition level and what you've painted, but as I say, it's something I feel I could go to and get something out of, but a few years ago I would never have gone to it because it's heavier metal. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, but it could quite well be. I mean, obviously they were speaking a lot of the times about the difference between the heavy metal team and the army painter team. So, there's two very different. I always used to assume that obviously heavy metal just used a lot of the paints. There was an element of mixing the paints together, but it literally is, they literally mix the majority of items from scratch. Even like the base coat will be mixed.
Oh, right, wow.
And all the highlights will be mixed. They'll go to the stage where they know the recipe they want. Say for skin, they'll be mixing one part of this, one part of this, and one part of another. But what they'll do is once they got this recipe that they want the team to use, they'll be mixing that up in a large batch.
Sure.
And having loads of mixed pots. And the army painter team are much more driven on using the paints as they come, as you can buy them.
They paint how you could paint straight out of the pot.
Yes, straight out of the pot.
Obviously well.
So, obviously very well and controlled still, but without that mixing element. And
do you
it
know
surprised me how...
I want a Mark Bedford / Phil / like James Karch style of painting one of these, where it's just like, you got a spray can, right, spray them all this colour, right? Take a wash brush, do this, get another spray can, do that from here, bosh, there you go, you're done. That's a whole army done. Yeah. It'd be amazing. That's the one I'd pay money for.
Well, because obviously, the way that you're right in some ways that the heavy metal style may detract some people from it because they may be a little bit. I don't know if I think I don't know if I want to go on that course. I don't know if I want to learn to that level, sort of thing.
Well, yeah, and particularly starting out, if you're happy that you get paint between the lines, are you ready to take an heavy metal paint course? You'll learn stuff, but would most of it go over your head? As you say, a lot of it's brush control. And if your brush control is only good enough to paint the colour in, as it were, as what I've done for many years is colouring in with paint, then I haven't got the brush control to do the techniques. Maybe they can teach me kind of what I should be looking at, but I would feel that there's a step or two I'd need to take before going, as it were, to get the most out of your money.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, for getting the most out of it, I think everyone got value for money out of the event. I think just for the sheer amount of stuff you got to take away with you, there was value for money in the event. I was quite shocked at the number of paints that were provided that were given to us.
Throwaway, isn't it, for a company like GW? We're talking about...
There was two big pots of wash. There was, all the colours to do, literally all the marines. It must have been 20, 25 paints, and you factor that in with all the brushes and all the other things they've laid on, including food for the 2 days.
Yeah.
That the ticket price was not bad at all, really. I thought they even mentioned that they may look to increase that ticket price to show the value of what you're getting, and also to stop anyone sort of just buying up loads of the tickets willy nilly. Buying 3 of them, like as I did, and then possibly stopping other people from going.
Yeah, there is that as an option. They could just limit it to 1 ticket per person, period. But,
yes.
Yeah, who knows? Okay, so you had lunch in the canteen?
Yeah, it was in the canteen.
Cool.
I think it was very similar to the sort of lunches they do for the the tournament weekend. So it was a choice of 3 or 4 things from main and help yourself to sides.
That's good.
And I must admit, the food on the first day, I thought, this is a bit sort of, it was just like burgers and chips, and which was fine. And then when the second day came around, I thought, I don't know if I can do another burger. But it was a completely different menu. There was pasties and all sorts, like Hunter's chicken, and it was absolutely brilliant. I've really enjoyed the food on the second day, so I felt as though they did a really good job.
It really helps if you go in there and you have 2 poor meals. It does reflect probably more than it should do on the price of the ticket. You do think, but if you get fed well, it makes you feel so much happier about the price of the ticket. That's cool.
Yeah, no, I thought that's one thing that obviously I feel, they do very well at Warhammer World, that, they can lay on that food. The fact they've got all those amenities around them, your ticket price included entry into the exhibition, as you would imagine.
Cool. Yeah,
Bugman's is there for grabbing a coffee or anything you want, So we had a man come round on the first day taking drinks orders, from Bugman's.
Oh, that's good.
So we had a service where he came around and, and gave us all, coffees and soft drinks and whatever else. So, it was things like that really add that extra little bit into the event.
That's cool. So what did you go back into on the afternoon?
Oh, in the afternoon, we then were painting faces. So this was, again, in the booklet, we had 4 different face recipes, and we were taken through a stage by stage of painting faces, which is something I think most people find difficult. I don't think there's many people that would say that faces are an easy thing.
No, I'll tell you what, Duncan's videos get you to a good level quite quickly. But to paint
that
them
was
well.
That was really enjoyable. We sort of went through that. The only thing that was we all found quite upsetting was when Max decided to talk us about painting eyes. So we're going through the eye process, and he's talking about, he's even got to the stage where the white isn't white on the eyes. He's mixing in a tiny bit of black to make it off white, so that when he puts the black pupil on, and he then puts the white dot in the middle of the pupil, the white dot shows up more against the off-white back of the, when you go, everyone sort of sat there and went, I'm not doing a white dot in the middle of a black pupil. If I get a black pupil on there, I'll be lucky. And
go on, so you want to slay a sword.
It was quite, it was very, very technical. I mean, they have such good skill and hand-eye coordination to get that spot on. It was really, really impressive. And again, it was really nice to have those recipes. We played around with those. We were doing that stage by stage, which I found very interesting, because whenever I've painted faces, I've done this thing where I've always tried to make each step as smooth and as clean as I can. But seeing how they do it sometimes is a little bit more like, that first shade is going to be covered up by the next layer, and your it's all the layers that make the face look right, not that, trying to make it look right stage by stage.
Sure, yeah. So
I did take it that looking at them doing it stage by stage, I felt more confident that the way I do it is the right way, and I'm not making a ghast error by sort of, when I do it and I think, that looks awful, because, I can really see where I've put that, I've put that shade on the face. Right. But seeing that's how they've done it, I go, okay, I haven't cocked that up, then I can move on to the next stage without too much worry.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Faces are a big thing because they're so important to a model, aren't they?
They are.
Was that all white skin tone?
So obviously the recipe we followed through was a white. I think they called it. I was looking at my booklet. They called it pale skin.
Sure.
But they gave us a recipe for light skin, tan skin, and dark skin.
Okay.
So
just similar processes.
Same processes, but obviously just giving you those different recipes. And I did really love the recipe book, because more often than not, I think to myself, well, what colour do I need for this? It's so much easier if you've got that written down.
Yeah.
When someone can just say, try Rhinox hide with Abaddon, and then Rhinox hide with Cadian, and you think, okay, I'll do that, and then away you go, and you've got a really good solid paint scheme without having to do too much experimentation.
Yeah. That's cool. So was there anything else on the Saturday?
No, that was mainly all we did on the Saturday. We finished up about 5:30, so it was quite a long day.
Yeah.
All told. And everyone sort of disappeared off after that, and I went for some dinner with Max and another guy from the heavy metal team, Martin, and some of the designers. They were all going out in Nottingham, so sort of hobnobbing with the big wigs. So I went off and we had some good time talking about painting and bits and pieces. So we went off and did that. And then the following day, so we were back in again for 9 o'clock, which was again. I felt as though maybe could have been pushed back slightly. It felt very early on the Sunday to be getting up and getting into Warhammer World for 9 o'clock. Especially when I think it doesn't open till 10 or 10:30. So Bugman's isn't open. Nothing. You can't get a drink or anything. We got in there, and the day 2 was a very different affair to day 1. We focused obviously on day 1 on learning techniques. Following tuition of step by step. With day 2, it was split into the 2 guys that were teaching the course from day 1. So that's Max and Chris Hines. They both went into separate meeting rooms, and each one of us had an hour with a designated painter to basically talk or do whatever we wanted in that hour. So that could be take your own models in for them to paint with you, to show you things, talk about different techniques. I used my hour purely to go through the, talk about Golden Demon, talk about my entry, what was good, what was bad, basically rip it apart, rebuild it, talk about blending. I went through a lot of subjects with Chris, and it was really, really good. I got so much value out of that. For someone to really sort of dismantle your painting and what you're doing and how you're doing it, and then talk about what is good about your painting and what is bad about your painting, really gives you a solid feel of what you need to be doing or what you should be working on. It's so easy to get caught into a bit of a rut of, well, I know what I'm doing and I'm just going to carry on doing it. Yeah. Whereas when someone sort of sits there and goes, that isn't right. Why have you done this there? And that colour isn't pulling out. You haven't highlighted that bit up enough. And really, it sounds, I basically did walk in there and said, look, be as harsh as you can, be as critical as you can. Yeah. So he knew he had a blank check to sort of go in there and rip it all apart. But he gave me so much information of what I need to do and how I need to do it that I felt that was worth the ticket value in its own for me, to have that sort of really, really hard feedback. Because when someone, say if you were on my Instagram and you just sort of sent me a message going, oh, I don't like that purple, or you've cocked that white up, it's not quite the same as someone, say, from the heavy metal team sort of really analysing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's having the ability to have that focused discussion as well about it, and coming with an understanding of what's going on. So was that all that Sunday was?
Pretty much. It was. Sure. So the way they worked it is those 2 went into the separate rooms. Then we had the 3rd heavy metal team member, Martin, turn up, who was in the main room with everyone. And he was basically, everyone was painting either what they'd already, the models they were supplied, or I obviously took my own models in. Some people had purchased models and they sprayed them up for everyone so they could do whatever they wanted. And he was just basically going around talking to people about their painting. So, you could be sitting there, painting away on, your Sigma, right? And they would just come over and go, oh, what are you doing? Oh, have you tried this? So you were getting, not like the hour 1-to-1, but you were sort of getting your own time to sort of sit there, paint, and getting some good feedback about what was going on. You could pick his brain. He was sitting there doing his own stuff as well, so you could sit there and talk about his stuff. It was a much more relaxed affair, and obviously there was a finish time. Obviously, I think it closed up about 5 or 6 o'clock, but you could leave whenever you wanted to. So it meant that, it was very relaxed. Everyone went off and had lunch, and then I disappeared shortly after lunch because at this point it was starting to snow quite heavily in Nottingham. Yeah. And I didn't want that horrendous journey. It was pretty horrendous, but I didn't want to be stuck on a motorway all night with being snowed. So a lot of people had done that. They said, like, the weather's looking awful, I'm going to shoot off. But it was all very relaxed, very sort of casual. You just went off and did whatever you needed to do.
Okay, cool. Do you know did you talk to the other people about how they use their time with the painters?
The guy that sat next to me, Pete, I was having a chat with him about what he did in that hour, and he was showing me the model that he took in, and Max had been going through feathering technique with him. Sure. And going through, just different colours and capes as well. Right. They were talking about capes and bits and pieces. It was, everyone got something very different out of it, which was quite interesting to see. Most people, there was, the good thing was you led the conversation of how you wanted it to go, if that makes sense. Yeah. You decided on what you wanted to do and how you wanted to do it. There was no sort of, it wasn't driven by the member of the team. And
again, I think the majority of people that you have there will have an understanding and will know what they're looking for. What I was considering is, I'm sure that Max and whoever would be able to pick up anyway if it lulled in those hours, but you have to. Yes, you can go in there and say, "Well, I'm not doing that well" or whatever, but you will get more out of it the more planned you are, the more focused you are with your questioning going into that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's cool. Were there any... did you come out of that with any new... because obviously the key to painting, right? So Max can put a pupil in a dot of white on a dot of black in an eye on a 28mm scale model. Yes. Were there any kind of how to get better control? Was that something that was talked about a lot? Because I think that's a major aspect. There was elements of that, certainly. There was, sure. They would often talk about, there was a lot of theory that went on, and you may have seen some pictures of Max drawing on a whiteboard. I put some pictures up. There were lots of other pictures floating around. If they were explaining something, they would often get a marker out and start drawing a picture or trying to explain how to do something. And sometimes that did come with purely, the technique or better ways of doing that technique. Cool. To achieve that. I spoke to a few people, mainly the people that are on my table, when, for instance, we were doing eyes. I was talking to them about how to maybe turn the model upside down. This is how a good way of getting into that eye socket, etc., etc. Because, those are things that you pick up over time. But obviously, they're focusing on taking you through the stages, but there was plenty of things to improve your brush control, certainly. Okay, that's good. That's cool. Awesome. Yeah. So obviously you've been on this one, looking at potential for other courses. Obviously, next year they could do different subjects as well. Would you see yourself going back to do another one?
I think so, yeah. I think you definitely get value out of it. I think if the subject is something that you really want to try or something you want to get better at, it's really well worth attending and going to. I think they said they would look to do is obviously to run it the same ones multiple times so people can go to them. Absolutely. They did also mention running them on a bigger scale. They mentioned at the moment that they couldn't use the moot because they're having office moves at head office, which meant that they may look to do a thing where you could buy a ticket purely for the tuition part, and you could buy a ticket purely for the one-to-one time, or you could buy both. Yeah, so you could, if they went down that road, you could say, well, do you know what? I really just need a one-to-one here. I don't really need the tuition part. I'll do the one-to-one. So that was another option that they were looking at. And I think obviously they've only just brought them back. I think GW have seen how popular they are, and I can see them changing a bit. Maybe next year, I can see them maybe changing how they run them slightly. There may be a few minor alterations to venue, timings, etc. But I think on the core of it will remain the same. I think you're going to have 2 or 3 members of the team there. You're going to be having things to go through, and then the one-to-one time and the sort of the self-practice part is going to be still there as well, I think.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's cool. And there's lots to. I mean, it's painting, isn't it? It's even if you just did different topics like non-metallic metals, true metallic metals, light sourcing. You've got a number of topics like that you could choose from before you even think about just brush control or how to whatever it is. There's painting. There's as many different ways of painting.
There's loads. I mean, they could run probably about 10 courses quite easily just off the back of just simple topics. Yeah. And then by the time you then rerun some of those, you're talking several years down the line before you probably say, oh well, we've run out of topics. Yeah, and again, as you say, with the level of interest, you're going to run those topics multiple times as well. It's potentially a very good revenue source for GW. Whether the painters really enjoy it or not, it will be the key, I think. And I'm sure they do. But it's very different, I suppose, from their day job. Yes, yeah. No, I think they really enjoyed it as well. They're obviously going to say they enjoyed it, but they said they had a good time. And I think it was, if they're enjoying it and we're enjoying it, then I think they're definitely going to be run more of them. Yeah, and as I say, whether they do it or not, an army painter one would be more my style, because I'm not worried and they could go down that road as well. Yeah. They could absolutely change it up quite easily. Have army painter weekends. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And obviously, they're going to do it. They're going to see how the first one or two go, as you say, make minor alterations to what they're doing. But they're going to see what hits, what doesn't hit, what they can do with it, and push forwards. So yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. Awesome. When's your next painting weekend? Have you got one lined up? January. Oh yeah. January Cult of Paint. Cult of Paint. Oh yeah. Whereabouts is that one? Cheltenham. In Cheltenham. Oh yes, of course it is. Yeah. Not as handy as the London Stadium. No, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's all good, isn't it? Awesome. Okay, we'll leave that one there, and we'll come back after the music. And you're at the end of another show again. Apologies for the shorter show. It was a bit crazy on Wednesday trying to get all the recording done, and we've had to cut the show down to get it out on time. But what we will do is we'll pick up all the content we were going to put in this one. It will come out. We won't lose anything. We're hopefully going to have Michael on to do a bit about the Black Library Advent Calendar, all the Heresy stuff in there, some really juicy stuff in there, particularly Laurie Golding's First Lord of Terror, I think it's called, which came out on the 14th. Fantastic story, divisive, kind of laden with potential and leaving as many questions as it answers, really, which is kind of cool in a way. We don't want too many things answered for us. But yeah, go and jump on those stories. You can read up. There's the forums and whatever, have chat about them. If you're not someone who regularly reads all that kind of stuff, maybe you want to pick up the odd one or two bits and pieces in there. I subscribe for the whole lot because I'm a glutton for it, as you all are probably aware. Aside from that, if you're following the social medias, you will have seen that Element have given us 3 codes to give away, so 3 vouchers effectively for £10, and one will be given away on Facebook, on the Facebook page. If you go find the post, I'll pin it in fact at the top, and you comment on that post, you'll be entered in to win one of them. Twitter, I put a tweet out. I'll try and pin that to the top. And again, all you have to do is reply to that tweet, and everyone who does will be entered in for that £10 as well. And then finally, the last one will be email. So if you email, no, that's wrong, isn't it? It's contest@theimperialtruth.com. That will be the final one, and you can enter all 3 to increase your chance of winning. So yeah, that's contest@theimperialtruth.com. And seeing as you have to message or reply
or email. While you're doing it, why not tell us what you like about the show, things you think we can improve on, what subjects you want to cover, things like that. This show is always going to be like how the show is. There are certain things that we don't really do, and I'm quite happy with that, but I will take on board what people are talking about, what people are requesting, thinking about, seeing what people like, seeing a couple that aren't going to happen, and that's fine. There are other shows that do those kind of things, and it's always better to have your style and go with that rather than trying to wedge everything in. So, but it's not a wasted comment. It gives us an opinion. It lets us see what the opinions are of listeners as well. It's good. It's really good for me to help kind of judge what we're going to do on the show. But if there's any specific bits you really like, feel free to shout them out and tell us you really like them, because it does mean that we're encouraged to do more. Although it's not like we're doing it for the encouragement, but it lets us know that those bits are valued and therefore we do more. So, yep. So all you have to do, so these are £10 vouchers for Element Games, electronic vouchers. And I will choose winners on the 26th of December while I'm recovering from eating far too much on the 25th. And we'll post up the winners of those. So you can enter all three, and it will obviously increase your chances of winning, but I'm going to make it so that you can only win one of them. Now, if you're not this side of the pond, or you're not in the area where ordering from Element makes sense, or you can't order because of the rules, then I'm still going to open it up to you. And what I'll do is I'll take that £10 and I will then give £10 or the equivalent value of £10 into vouchers from something in your area that you can do. So you're still getting the same price, because I know that we've got plenty of listeners in Canada and Australia and America and various other places around the world as well. So, if you do want to enter, feel free to enter. I will just sort it another way. It's all fine. So thank you to Element Games for doing that. Really wonderful stuff. And then, of course, you can always find us. So, Imperial_Truth on Twitter, Imperial Truth Facebook group and Facebook page. I'm at Child of Fang on Twitter as well. Neil at Neil Paints on Twitter and Instagram. And you can email us as well, Greg or Neil at theimperialtruth.com. And any feedback, any questions, anything like that, feel free to send that over. And that's it, I think. I think all that's left really to say is have a good Christmas, or have a good break, or whatever it is you do. And we will be putting out an episode on the 31st of December. You obviously don't have to listen to it then, but we'll be doing that. We don't take a break between the two, and we'll then be looking forwards to a 2018 full of heresy. So until next time, you have been listening to The Imperial Truth.